Well, maybe give a short applause to Rob and his panelists. Good.
Plastics are all around us. We all benefit from them. They help make our cars lighter, protect our food and insulate our homes. As we use plastics in more and more ways, we're also creating more. But did you know that just 14% of global plastic packaging is recycled? All the rest, worth $80 to $120 billion every year, is lost after just one short use. And that nearly a third of all plastic packaging leaks into ecosystems where it can stay around for hundreds of years. This means that by 2050, there could be more plastics than fish in the sea. The new plastics economy aims to drive a movement towards a system that works, transforming the current take, make, dispose economy into one where plastics are designed to be used over and over again. To do that, we're bringing together leading organisations, experts and entrepreneurs from across the world to innovate, collaborate and rethink the way we produce, use and recover plastics. We know it's possible. Join us in creating an effective system that works for everyone. Visit newplasticseconomy.org to learn more and see who's already involved.
Good morning. It's a true pleasure to be here and to be exploring this topic of how can we realize a new plastics economy in cities or a circular economy for plastics in cities on this conference today. And it's my true honor to do this with my three distinguished panelists on the stage. Wayne Hubbard, who's the Chief Operating Officer at the London Waste and Recycling Board. Wayne very graciously stepped in. We had another panelist foreseen, but Wayne stepped in very much at the last minute, so truly appreciate it, Wayne. So Wayne hasn't had the time, the others had to prepare, but I'm sure he will give, as always, extremely insightful comments. We have Jorge Serrano, who is the Companies and Eco-Design Manager at Ecoembes, which is the Spanish Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR, organization. And finally, we have Jean-Marc Boursier, who is the Group Senior Executive Vice President in charge of Recycling and Recovery Europe at SUEZ. Jean-Marc is also the Chairman at the French Federation of Waste Management Services, and as of 2017, also the Chairman for the European Federation of Waste Management and Environmental Services. And I'm really looking forward to discussion. As we saw in the animation just now, plastics really is a fascinating material flow. It is all around us. We all, virtually every human being in the planet uses plastics on a daily basis. You probably all have just today touched dozens, if not hundreds of plastics items. Plastics do bring many benefits to our societies, but at the same time, as outlined with some of the numbers in the animation, they are one of the most iconic examples of our current linear take, make, dispose economic model. So it's a fascinating topic, and that's also the reason why we at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation have been working on the topic of plastics and plastic packaging specifically over the past couple of years. Trying to, oh, there we go. We launched, so we worked over the past 3 years on this topic, and we launched in January this year, in collaboration with the World Economic Forum and McKinsey, we launched a report called The New Plastics Economy, where we laid out some of the realities of today's plastic system as we saw in the animation, and also the blueprint of a more effective plastic system based on the principles of the circular economy, or a new plastics economy as we called it. That report was the result of a collaboration between over 40 companies and cities all across the global plastic packaging value chain, including some of the panelists here on the stage today. And then in May this year, we started a 3-year initiative called the New Plastics Economy Initiative to mobilize the recommendations from this report, again bringing a group of together of about 50 companies and cities across the plastic packaging value chain to innovate and work towards a plastic system that works. And it's not just us at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation that are interested in this topic. We've seen a massive take-up of interest in plastics and the circular economy over the past couple of years. There's now transparency on and an awareness of the realities of today's system that really wasn't there just 2 or 3 years ago. We've seen front-running businesses taking action. We've seen policymakers taking action. In Europe, for example, with the European Commission currently working on a plastic strategy as part of its Circular Economy Action Plan, we've seen dozens of countries and cities introduce landmark plastics regulations over the course of 2016. We see NGOs moving up and starting to be more active in this space. So in short, there's really massive momentum on this topic. So the timing for this panel is really very timely. And not only the timing, but also the place where we are, the Smart Cities Conference, is I think, the perfect place to have this panel discussion, because cities, of course, play a crucial and essential role in this whole debate. They are, first of all, they are an actual part of the after-use value chain. So they are, in most countries in the world, it's cities and municipalities that run or are at least responsible for the collection and sorting of plastics. They're also active in regulations with, for example, some recent bans on certain applications, especially in the US. And last but not least, of course, cities are also, very importantly, innovation hubs, where probably a lot of the innovations that we'll need in design, in new materials and technologies to move towards the new plastics economy will come from. So I think this is going to be an absolutely fascinating session. I'm looking forward to it. We'll start with a short presentation from each of the panelists. Then we'll go in a more interactive discussion. And then at the end, we'll be answering questions from the public. So at this point, I would just like to remind you of the Ask and Vote app that you all have, and where you can ask questions and vote on these questions. We will discuss them at the end. So at this moment, I'd like to hand over to you, Wayne.
Hi, yeah, so I haven't got a presentation, so that's going to be challenging. Did you get that slide that I, yeah, okay, so we'll have that one up. So if you were here for the finance panel, then you will have seen this slide before, which is going to come up next, is it? Yay, so there you go. So, you know, London, 8.6 million people or thereabouts, a population rising to circa 11 million by 2050, and then obviously in between growth. And we have 33 municipalities in London, and each municipality is its own waste collection authority and actually its own waste disposal authority. So 33 quite powerful individual local authorities within the Greater London boundary, all active in the collection and management of waste materials. It's somewhat random and haphazard, and the reasons for that go back in time to political battles that were fought through the 1980s, as it happens. But we have a system that is not necessarily ideally structured for the collection and logistical management of waste materials. So what we're trying to do in London is to harmonise those collections, and through collaboration with boroughs and other cities, as it happens, to find a way of harmonising the collection of materials and communicating to residents what kind of materials can be collected and how they can be collected. And that's part of our role, I think. And the beauty of the New Plastics Economy project is that, one, we get to meet other cities and around Europe and the world, and we can share best practice, and we can start to collaborate. And two, we can start to join up the dots from the designers and producers of plastics all the way through to the reprocessors. we've had experience at LWARB. I work for a body that is a public body that invests in waste management infrastructure, and in that investment we've invested in plastics reprocessing facilities, and they have gone bust. Well, at least two of them have. One of them went bust because the price of oil went down. So volatility in the market meant that they couldn't sell their material for enough to offset the costs of collection and what have you. So we certainly see the linear economy being a threat to reprocessing, and we feel that very deeply because we lost money in that process. One of the ways we're going to address that is through this new strategy which we're developing, where we invest in a multitude of smaller businesses innovating in the circular economy. And one of the areas that we're focusing on is plastics. So we hope to set up a holistic system of support for SMEs, and in this particular aspect, we hope to get innovation in textiles and plastics, for example, both which have plastic implications. So that could be materials innovation, that could be reuse applications, that could be durability, anything that kind of fits within the circular economy business model framework, we'd be happy to support. And we hope that we get a corporate in a big corporate who will join our program. So maybe through the new Plastics Economy program, we can find suitable corporates to help offer free management support and maybe take out investments in some of these companies, because there will be opportunity to invest equity as you go through the process. So just summing up very quickly, cities, clearly aggregators of material, lots of material moving in and out of cities. We have the collection and logistics operations. They need to be, in my view, harmonised to make it simple and easy for people to recycle, which it clearly isn't in London at the moment. We need to then use that to I think, make a kind of fairly consistent and harmonised system across as wide a geographical areas as possible, and then start to tie up the harmony across the value chain. And then what cities can be doing as well is incentivising these innovative, smaller businesses who will come up with the great ideas of the future that might be game changers, the moonshots that you used to call it. I think, Rob, you've moved away from that terminology, but clearly there are opportunities for us to do that, and then maybe they come up with a great idea that just completely changes the game.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for that, Wayne. And definitely both the harmonization, convergence efforts, and moonshots are two of the elements that we also very much see as the Ellen MacArthur Foundation as critical to move this agenda forward. Jean-Marc, over to you.
Thank you, Rob. Let me tell you first that it is a real pleasure for me to be on stage with you, as it is a pleasure for SUEZ, the group I'm representing, to work with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation on this new plastic economy project. Thank you. Plastic is an important topic for SUEZ. First, you need to know that in Europe, as of today, almost 50 million tons of plastic are used every day, of which only 25% is sorted and ready for recovery. It doesn't mean that it is recovered, because as you can see on this graph, the SUEZ group is handling 400,000 tons of plastic. SUEZ is sorting 400,000 tons of plastic, of which 135,000 tons are only recovered in Europe. So we have a first issue that we are not able to recover and reutilize in Europe as much plastic as we are able to sort. The second topic is that if we are only sorting 25% of the plastic that are used in Europe, the objective of the circular economy package, and Rob touched upon that, is much more important than that, because we are aiming, Europe is aiming, local authorities altogether are aiming at reaching 55% in 2025. So we need to go much over our current habit, our current strategy, in order to make sure that those targets will be easily achievable. Let me just remind you one very simple equation. Each time we are able to save 1 ton of plastic through recovery, we are minimizing 5 barrels of oil. So recycling of plastic independently of the financial equation, and I will come back to the message that was given by Wayne. Recovery of plastic is very virtuous indeed in terms of protection of the environment. Within SUEZ, we have 11 plants. It is a big topic for us, and we are going to continue to invest. We have started this investment almost 10 years ago, and we are very much involved in the future of plastic recovery. We try to innovate as well. I will give you 2 examples. We are innovating because we have set up a Plast Lab, and we are able to demonstrate through this Plast Lab that the plastic which is recovered and reproduced and reutilized potentially into new economic cycle has exactly the same characteristic as the virgin one. Okay? We are increasing in terms of quality year after year, and the quality of the plastic that we are putting on the market as of today have almost the same characteristic as the virgin one. But we need to innovate also as far as collection is concerned. If we are not able to separate and to segregate at the source, then we will be in a difficult position as far as sorting and recycling is concerned. So we have set up a new company called Reco. Reco is a company that is putting a kiosk on a supermarket park place, and we are incentivizing people that are bringing back their plastic bottles through, it's a drop-off zone, as a matter of fact, and we are giving them reduction, coupon, that they can utilize within the supermarket that has given us the space necessary for those kiosks. We need to change the mindset of the population. We need to collect, and we need to think about incentivizing the people for a smarter collection in the future, because if we are not separating the plastic at the source, it will be very difficult for our plants to be able to reach the 55% recycling target that is defined by Europe. We are also investing a lot into a new transformation unit. The plant that you are seeing here, this is the vision that you should have of a waste management company. If you believe we are old-fashioned garbage boys and girls in the organization, you are wrong. This is the new facility that we are putting in place. I don't want to be seen anymore as a standard and historical utility company. We are producing secondary resources. This plant is based in Maastricht, in Holland. We have invested 35 million euros to recover 36,000 tons per annum of high quality polypropylene and polyethylene. So if you do the metric, we need to invest 1 million euro in capex to recover 10,000 tons of plastic. So the capital intensity, the innovation, the research that is needed is tremendous. If we were to think about recovering the 50 million ton I was describing in my introduction as the total amount of plastic that it is used in Europe, the total investment that would be needed for local authority, for the state, etc., would be around 50 billion euro. So we are talking about huge investments that are needed. And through that plant, we are able to shred, to clean, and to compound in order to produce, as you can see on the graph, new plastic compounds that are reutilized to produce new packaging. Therefore, the name is QCP, as Quality Circular Polymer. And the customers of those plants are, you name it, L'Oréal, Procter & Gamble, IKEA, and so on, that will be able in the future to produce new plastic packaging out of recycled bottle. This plant was supposed to be a great success. And as a matter of fact, I'm losing a lot of money. So what do? Shall I stop the plant or shall I continue? Obviously, the group has decided to continue. And why do you think we are losing money? We are losing money for 2 very simple reasons, which are explained on those charts. The first one on the left, and Wayne explained that earlier on, is that we are competing against virgin material. And virgin plastic is very much correlated to the price of oil. And as you know, price has been going down by roughly 40% over the last 2 years. And as a matter of fact, the price of recycled plastic went down as well by approximately 40%. On the other hand, this is the green arrow, the cost for producing recycled plastic is totally fixed. The cost for collection, the cost for sorting, and the cost of recycling is totally fixed. And at some point in time in the curve, and that was roughly a year ago, the price for recycling plastic became higher than the price for producing virgin plastic. And the financial equation as of today is impossible because obviously our customers, they are keen on circular economy, they have very clear objective in terms of sustainable development, but they don't want to pay much higher to get recycled products. As of today, there is a difference of 20%. So producing recycled plastic costs for them, for my customers, 20% more than purchasing virgin plastic. The second reason is that the plastic that we are sorting is very complex to recover. I will speak later on about the homogeneity of the flow. This plant is fed from 5 different countries. So we are bringing polyethylene and high-density polypropylene from Belgium, from Holland, from France, from Germany, and from the UK. The inflow are very different. The inflow are very heterogeneous because the sorting habits of the various cities and the various population in Europe is not exactly the same. But on the top of it, the plastic that we are recovering is very complex to recover. So I've put 4 examples of plastic bottle, which, as of today, is a pain to recycle. The first one is the yogurt pot. This is polystyrene. As of today, we don't have technical solution to reproduce polystyrene from polystyrene. The second example is the bottle of milk. In order to reduce the cost of packaging, all the producers of packaging, they've done 2 things. First, they've used the cheapest possible solution. And second, they've used very light material. Because as you know, there is this EPR scheme, and Jorge is going to talk about it. And in order to reduce the eco contribution that, as a packaging company, I will have to pay, my advantage is to reduce the weight of the packaging. So the use of polystyrene is in order to reduce the weight. The plastic bottle is complex because plastic bottle is more and more using PET. The PET is cheaper than high-density polyethylene. And in order to make it dark, to protect the milk, you don't need to have the light going through the packaging. I'm not going to enter into many details, but there is a layer inside of black carbon. It is impossible for my plant to distinguish and to separate the PET from the black carbon. Another example, and I will not to be too long, as you can see, there is a bottle for ketchup. We are discovering that we have more and more silicones in the plastic. And the silicone is used by the producer to make the bottle rigid, more rigid, and to be able to put it up and down. So as a matter of fact, our plant is not working. First, because the cost of virgin is much lower as of today than the cost of recycled material. But second, also, because we are facing a growing difficulties and a variety of plastic because the packaging company are willing to make it as cheaper and as light as possible. Having said that, are there solutions? Obviously, they are. Otherwise, I would not be there telling you that the SUEZ group is continuing to work on this topic. The first solution is to try to work in cooperation with cities, with eco-organisms, with the packaging industry, in order to make sure that we take into consideration the recycling of packaging even before putting those packaging on the market. This is what we call eco-conception. We need to change the way this industry is working in such a way that we are not thinking about recovery at the end of the process, but much before, in such a way that the packaging are much easier to recover. The second is that we need to encourage people to sort much better. And we need to find ways in incentivizing the population in the various cities in Europe in order to separate much better at the source. I can tell you, for instance, that my Swedish friends, they have 11 bins at home. So they are very good in segregating the waste flow. The third topic is the price for carbon. We need to give a price to the carbon. And we need to make sure that the price for carbon and all the environmental externalities are taken into consideration when we are comparing the price of recycled material with the price of virgin material. As of today, at 6 euro per ton or 6.5 euro per ton, it doesn't make a difference. If we were to think, for instance, as we believe in SUEZ, to put a price for carbon around 40 euro per ton, each time we are recovering 1 ton of plastic, we can reduce the emission of CO2 by 1.6 ton. So if you assume that the price of carbon is becoming around 40 euro times 1.6 means 64 euro. So that 64 euro can be used in order to incentivize the construction of new plants, and that will reduce the gap between virgin and recycled product. And finally, I would like to add another topic, and I will conclude on that, not to be too long. If we are changing the world, the citizen, we have to think about it differently. That means that we need to change first eco-label. When you take a plastic bottle, sometimes you have a logo. In my country, this is Ecoembes, and you might think this is a recycled product. As a matter of fact, it is not the recycled product. This logo is just saying this bottle has paid its eco-contribution. But it doesn't say if the plastic is recyclable or not, and it doesn't say if the bottle I have in my hand is made of recycled plastic or not. As a consumer, as a citizen, I want to know if my packaging is recycled or not, and not recyclable. I want to know if it is recycled. And in order to incentivize the use of recycled products, the SUEZ Group is promoting the idea that for each recycled product that will be at least using 50% of recycled material, we need to have a reduced VAT and potentially no VAT at all, because the VAT has already been paid the first time the packaging has been put on the market, in order to have a financial incentive for the citizens, for the consumer, to force the brands to use more and more recycled products. As a conclusion, my dear Rob, we have a challenge in front of us. It will take years and years to promote this idea of a new plastic economy, and we need to work together very hard in order to be able to reach the 55% target that is been set by European Commission. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that, Jean-Marc. That's it's really encouraging to hear both the concrete innovations you're pursuing and then the investments you're actually making at scale. For example, with the plant in the Netherlands, that's fantastic, and also very insightful to hear some of the challenges indeed that we have in the system and with the economics of the system in today's environment and about how to overcome them. So thank you a lot for that. Jorge, over to you.
Okay. There are already some circular economy models up and running in society today. I'm about to describe one of them a bit to you. Ecoembes coordinates the efforts of the 3 main members of the society: private companies, the general public, and the public administrations, mainly the city halls, in order to guarantee an efficient recycling of the household packaging waste. Companies, as John said before, pay a fee, the green dot fee, to Ecoembes in order to comply with the European Packaging Waste Directive. The public administrations must provide the public service of collecting and handling the household packaging waste, and the general public collaborates with the model by sorting the waste into different containers, 3 colors, yellow, blue, and green, depending on which material is the packaging made of. This contribution of the citizens is key to guaranteeing the efficiency of the whole system. And which is more important, this contribution is voluntary, not mandatory. This means that I can drop a yellow bag into a blue container, standing next to a policeman, and I can not be fined. And in fact, this is one of the main differences between the Spanish model and other European similar EPR systems. But how does Ecoembes coordinate these three different members? We work in different stages. At the production stage, we work with private companies in order to improve the recyclability of packaging, trying to avoid these aspects which make it more difficult to collect, sort, and manage the recycling. We work in consumption, trying to promote the best recycling practices at home. We work with city halls, with the public administrations, as the waste which is collected must be sorted into different material streams. Not only sorting, but not only collection, but sorting is needed. So we work with this public administration in order to improve the efficiency of these two different stages. And we also work in recycling, obviously. Here, again, with private companies, we try to improve the quality of the recovered materials in order to meet new industry standards. But looking in more depth at how does Ecoembes promotes innovation in the waste treatment sector, we try to answer some questions. At the production stage, we try to answer how can we promote more sustainable packaging? How can we work in eco-design of packaging? Here we act as a consultant, developing tools and services in order to help our member companies to identify new packaging designs which allows to reduce the use of raw materials, longer shelf lives, or to include some recycled material into new packaging designs. And here we also strongly recommend to avoid those aspects of packaging who can make it more difficult to recycle. Try to avoid PET with PET with PVC, try to avoid it, the mixing of materials into the same packaging, and all these kind of approaches. In consumption, how can we promote responsible consumption? How can we promote good behaviors of recycling at home? Here we are dealing with big data analyses to predict the specific impact of a particular awareness campaign. The challenge here is to find a balance between how many different materials stream are we asking to separate at home, and how many containers do we need to place on the street 24/7 in order to make it socially easy to the general public to collaborate with the system. In waste handling, we work in these two different stages. At the collation stage, we try to find more efficient routes. How can we make it cheaper and with less environmental impact, this needed collection of the different waste streams? Here we work to find new technologies, many of them related with the smart cities issue, such as online monitoring of the filling level of the waste containers, also geolocalization systems, but also working with trying to implement more efficient vehicles or trainings for the drivers in order to make a more efficient driving. Here the aim is to improve the quality of the service and collect more material and in less time. At the sorting stage, we ask ourselves if there are new technologies we can implement here in order to improve the monitoring of production. Here, the aim is to implement other industries standards, such as the car manufacturing industry, to the waste treatment sector. In recycling, as I told before, we try to find new uses for the recovered materials to improve the quality of the material we deal with in order to meet new uses requirements, new industry standards. Well, this is how we try to close the loop. This is how we keep on improving the efficiency of the system by working in innovation. This Ecoembes model is a model that works. It's a model we can be proud of because it has already reached up to a 75 recycling ratio of household packaging waste, which is in fact one of the highest throughout the European Union.
Right, thanks a lot for that, Jorge. It's again encouraging to hear about all the different types of collaborations you're already involved with different actors across the system. And I'd like to continue on that topic because it is one of our core beliefs, having worked on this topic extensively over the past couple of years, that plastics truly is a systemic issue. So there is no single company or city, organization or government that can tackle this problem on their own. There is a need for collaboration across the system, across the value chain here. So picking up on that topic and giving the word back to you, Wayne. So what are some of the collaborations that you see as essential to move forward on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, as I was referred to at the start, you know, we haven't even got our own house in order within our own city. That's not to criticise what's going on at the moment, because there's a lot of activity going on in London. I think we're one of the, you know, I'll put it out there, I think we're one of the best performing recycling cities in the world. So I'll say that and you can come and challenge me later. But the system was set up not to be integrated. It was set up, you know, in a disintegrated fashion. So we now have to collaborate, not formally, but not sort of legally. We have to collaborate across that system, which is disintegrated. That's really tricky. So we want to introduce not consistency, harmony. I think harmony sounds better than consistency. So we want harmonious collection system across London, at least in relation to key materials. That would be a first step. But at the same time, and in parallel with those discussions that we're having with our partner boroughs, we're also having discussions with other European cities. So we held a conference in City Hall in London in March, where Paris, Amsterdam and Copenhagen presented, and certainly in terms of Amsterdam and Copenhagen, we formed quite a close working relationship. We have a new mayor in London, and I hope that close working relationship will continue. The Mayor of London has already set out his intention to work with other European cities, despite the unmentionable, I'm not going to even mention it, sorry, but you know what I'm talking about. Despite that, we're going to continue to work with other European cities. He's got a close working relationship with Mayor Hidalgo in Paris, so we hope that will bear fruit. And through other networks, like the C40 Cities Network, we'll also collaborate. But as you know, it's really important to collaborate across the value chain as well, because consumers have got to do this, and it's confusing. I care about plastics recycling, and I'm confused. So if I'm confused and I'm supposed to know what I'm doing, then, you know, goodness only knows what your average consumer who's got a lot of things to deal with thinks about plastics recycling. So if we can do anything, simplifying, standardizing in some way, working with the designers, that would really help, I think.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Wayne. And I'd like to pick up on that topic of harmonization. It has come up a couple of times with the inputs to the Netherlands plant coming from 5 countries, the 33 boroughs in London. And it's also one of the key insights that we had through our work on the last couple of years, that one of the key elements that prevents the creation of an effective circular economy for plastics is that degree of fragmentation all across the value chain. So there's thousands of materials going into the system, combined in very different designs. And then if you look at the other end of the system, there's a huge fragmentation of the way that plastics are being collected and sorted, even in sometimes in the case of within one individual city, which collectively, well, first of all, confuses everyone, but also importantly prevents the creation of economies of scale that are necessary to make the system work economically. And that's one of the topics that we are working on with the New Plastics Economy Initiative on something we call the Global Plastics Protocol. So can we get to a set of guidelines and standards that can drive harmonization and convergence in the system to make the economics work? And importantly, that's on design, that's on after-use collection systems, but also on the link between these two. So can they be harmonized so that they jointly move towards one common target state? So picking up on that point further for that harmonization point, and Jean-Marc, passing the word back to you. So within this this whole framework of harmonization on the collection systems, on the design end, where you highlighted some of the issues we see today, what is it that we can realistically do going forward, and what are concrete actions we should take to drive this harmonization agenda forward?
First of all, we need to know that as a European citizen, we have all together the same objective. The objectives are defined by European Commission. It is currently being voted by Parliament. So assuming that the Parliament will vote the circular economic package as it is drafted today, and it is a debate, on average in Europe, the municipal waste is recycled at 50%, and we need to reach 65% in 15 years from now. So the gap is tremendous. And in order to bridge that gap, we need to take care of plastic, which is not so essential in terms of weight, but in terms of public image, it's very important to make sure that plastic will not end up into landfill or even into the ocean or other things like that. So we need two types of things. First, we need to make sure that the push measures that we need to do in our everyday life is clearly understood by the population. When you refer to some interrogation that you have, you need to know that I know the statistic for my country, in France, almost everybody is making a mistake per day in the sorting of the waste. So we need to have an harmonization, a simplification of the labeling. I have a plastic films. Am I authorized or not to put it in my recycle bin? I have a yogurt pot. Am I entitled to throw it in the recycle bin or not? Nobody knows, even specialists. There are debates, and some cities say yes, some cities say no. And at the end of the day, the flow that are arriving in our facility are so heterogeneous that we can't sort properly. So the first is simplification, homogeneity of the way we are treating the volume. And because we have the same objective everywhere in Europe, and because our plants are designed at European level and that the waste is traveling from one country to another one, you need to work with your colleagues of the other cities. So your initiative is very welcome to make sure that you're all pushing in the same direction. I believe we need to change the collection mode. I believe that we need to put more incentivization scheme one way or another in the way the European population is seeing that. There are all of the countries in the northern part of Europe where incentivization has been injected into the system. So basically we say to the population, everything that is not recycled, you will pay for it through local taxes. What is either sorted at the source or that is brought back to civic amenity sites or equivalent, you will not pay for it. Okay, it's not maybe as virtuous as using only politics means, but it makes things progressing in the right direction. And finally, it's good to sort, but we need also pull measures. So once we have sorted the material, what do we do with it? So we need to find a market in Europe in order to make sure that we can reutilize those materials in Europe. That would be virtuous for employment, because that will create a lot of jobs. I forget to give you one very short number. As of today, out of the 50 million tons which are used in Europe every year, and that amount was only 1 million tons 50 years ago. So within 50 years, the usage of plastic has gone from 1 to 50. So it has been multiplied by 50 in 50 years. And all of the specialists, including those of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, strongly believe, as we do, that the use of plastic will continue to rise. So we have to do something, because it is already very important, but it will become an even bigger issue in the years to come. Out of these 50 million tons of plastic, only 7% is coming from recycled polymer. So 3.5 million tons. If we were to think, and I believe that this is foreseeable, that we need to move from, let's say, 7 to 20, it means that we have to move from 3.5 million tons of recycled polymer to something like 10 million tons. We need to invest 200 plants as the one I show you. So we need to think about a real market with a real value creation. I am losing money on this plant. Do you think that I'm going to be able to build 1, 2, 3 additional plants if we are losing money as it is today? No, the market will not develop. So what will we do? We will ask the citizens to sort more, and those materials will be exported to China. And they will create the demand in China, and they will create the jobs in China, and they will create the new circular economy in China. So it doesn't work like that. So we need to find a way of balancing push measures. What do we do in our everyday life to sort more? And pull measures. How do we make sure that those material is recycled and reutilized in Europe? And therefore, the two measures I was mentioning around VAT, we need to reduce VAT to ease the process, and we need to create a market with the price of CO2, which is not at its current level, because at the current level, it does not create a sustainable economy.
That's great. Thanks a lot for that, Jean-Marc. So we've touched upon the topic of innovation moonshots a couple of times already in the discussion. We discussed some of the examples you're pursuing at SUEZ. Wayne, we discussed with you the way that the City of London is incentivizing and accelerating innovation. Putting the word back to you, Jorge, what are some of the things that you are working on or that you see in the space developing around interesting innovations?
Okay, well, prior to that, let me give a word about this previous issue. I mean, here we are dealing with making consumption more sustainable. And we have to work from 3 different but equally important approaches, not only the environmental, not only the economic, but also the social one. We cannot ask the general public to sort it out every single thing they consume. So here we try to find a balance between too many waste streams and too less of them. So from our experience, here works the theory of economies of scale. If you collect the same way, the same materials, with the same containers throughout the whole country, throughout the whole Europe, it helps a lot to reach these economies of scale, to make it better and cheaper, which is very important as the social point of view. Here we work mainly with city halls and town halls, but also with other public administrations in order to promote the eco-design of packaging, the prevention of the packaging waste, and also the cleaning of the beaches and the Mediterranean Sea. 2 weeks ago, maybe 1 month ago, we launched a project with Ecoembes, which is a clothing brand, in order to work with fishermen who has started to recover some waste from the bottom of the sea and using it to make new textile fiber to their collection. So this is one of the examples we can do to prevent the marine littering, but also the ground littering, which is as well a problem for society today.
Super. That's a really interesting example, Jorge. Thanks a lot for that. We touched upon some of the challenges in the system before, the challenges of the low virgin prices that recycled plastics, for example, are competing against, the challenges of fragmentation. And obviously there's been for a long time already been efforts on increasing circularity of plastics. So putting it back to you, Jean-Marc, you've obviously been following this business for a while now. So what would you say, are you confident that now is different, and that now actually we are in a different situation, and that we are on the cusp of really accelerating the transition?
Yes, I strongly believe that we are on the verge of this new circular economy as far as plastic is concerned. Jorge mentioned that in his introduction. There are other flows for which circular economy is already a reality. We shall not sound too dark. It's already a reality for metal. It's already a reality for paper. It's already a reality for glass. It's already a reality for wood. But we have an issue with plastic for all the reasons which I've explained. But I believe that we are on the verge of a new area, a new era, for a couple of reasons. First, because there is a growing environmental awareness of the population, and there is a growing tendency to all of us in the room that we need to find a solution for plastic, because it's unacceptable to see that we have a continent of plastic somewhere in the ocean. Second, because we have long-term and positive-minded customers. The big names which I've mentioned, L'Oréal, Procter & Gamble, IKEA, they are thinking about plastic in a different manner. And even if it's slightly more expensive for them, I think their policy in terms of sustainable development will drive them towards the increased usage of recycled plastic. Third, because people like SUEZ, which have been investing for years and years, we are able to find new technology that will make the recycling of plastic easier in the years to come. So you say that, Rob, very clearly. Innovation is key. We are thinking about new ways of recycling plastic. We have started this journey about plastic-to-plastic recovery roughly 10 years ago. And we are producing a polymer for the food industry and non-food industry out of PET, PP, PE. We are already investing a sizable amount of money in the plastic-to-fuel recovery. So we know how to produce plastic from fuel for the last 150 years, but SUEZ believes that through gasification and distillation, we will be able to produce recycled fuel in the years to come. And I hope that at some stage, my car or Air France or British Airways plane will be powered with SUEZ fuel. And we are thinking for the years to come into the new territory, which is plastic to chemical. So what can we produce out of plastic, which would be smart for the circular economy? Can we think about producing ethanol or methanol? Can we think about producing wax and things like that? So there is a new area, a new avenue for growth in the future, but that will require a lot of innovation, technology, effort. And whether we like it or not, I believe that we will need leaders, a big company like ours, to think about that in a very positive manner indeed. As I told you earlier on, this is a long journey that will probably last decades and decades before we are in the type of economy totally circular that you and I would dream about.
Fantastic, thank you, Jean-Marc. And it is really encouraging to see that there are stars aligning for a system shift to take place. And it will be a long journey, but I fundamentally believe that as well, that the stars are aligning for that journey to really kick off and start accelerating right now. So before we go into the questions from the audience, I'd like to just give each of the panelists still the opportunity to briefly say what would be the one thing that you believe is critical to accelerate transition to a new plastics economy?
Yes, I think for me it's the point about harmony, at least at the first instance in collection systems, because that gives you so much leverage over things like communications and making it easy. You've got to make recycling easy for people, otherwise it's just, it's pushing a stone up a hill kind of stuff. So harmonization
Well, I do agree with Wayne. Harmonization is needed throughout the whole Europe, but also some pooling measures, because it has no sense that the raw material is cheaper than the recovered one. We have to ease industry to use the recovered materials and well, use the output of this circular economy model more.
I could have said exactly the same as my two colleagues, so I will change my own conclusion. I believe a key topic is collaboration. At the end of the day, we are all in the same boat, between the corporation that are creating those packaging and that are, we shall not forget it, financing most of the collection and recovery system through EPR type of scheme like Ecoembes that is managed by Jorge. So we have to find a collaboration between the companies and the eco-organism, between local authorities, between citizens. It's all around changing the habits of the various population, and finally the company like ours, which have the technology, the skills, the competence, and the people to finance, to build, and to run those new facilities that we will have to put on the market. So my key topic as a conclusion would be collaboration with the cities.
Super. Thanks a lot for that. So I'm going to the questions from the audience now that have come in through the vote, to the ask and vote. We have some very enthusiastic fans of Ecoembes in the audience supporting, but that's not really a question. The second question is, what is going to happen? That's one for you, Jean-Marc. What is going to happen to SUEZ plants in 10 years if the production moves to bioplastics?
But we are going to adapt. We have been a visionary leader, I believe, of this industry for the last 120 years. So we will continue on that field. We are a resource company. As a matter of fact, when you think about a waste management company, we have two types of customers. Those who are producing waste and to whom we are selling environmental services in order to minimize their waste. And those who are at the end of the chain, those to whom we are selling a secondary raw material and energy. So we are going to continue to be a resource provider. If the inflow material is changing, we will adapt. And we will continue to be a number one in Europe for energy production and secondary raw material with only one stream, which is waste. So waste is no longer the end of the world. Waste is a formidable resource. So we have to invent the tool to recover that resource into something that is useful for the citizen and the society.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Next question is whether reduce or reuse play a part in any of your projects. And I guess that question comes from the fact that we've been talking quite a bit about plastics recycling right now, as we heard also this morning from the presentation of Alan Macarthur. Of course, the circular economy is about a lot more than recycling. So it's definitely also in the new plastics economy initiative that we're driving. We're also looking at, for example, where are the sweet spots in the market for reusable packaging. But playing this question back to the panelists, anyone has a, I think this one can be taken by anyone, and anyone has a perspective?
Well, I mean, it depends, really. Is it better to recycle or is it better to reuse? It depends. I mean, is it better a wedding shoot or is it better a neoprene shoot? Depends on what you're gonna do. If you are going to your wedding day, better don't use that neoprene shoot. I mean, it depends of the logistics of your packaging, of the use you're gonna make to it, because if you are not very sure about the end use of your product, when is it going to end? Maybe it's better to go to one only single-use packaging in order to assure the sanity of the product. But when, I mean, it really depends. We can go deeper into that, but I don't see one solution as the solution for the whole stuff. I don't see it.
All right, super, thank you. Wayne?
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there'll be a whole range of solutions, but you know, we're quite interested in London in helping innovators to innovate. So, you know, I would hope and expect that within that cadre of young companies coming forward with interesting technical solutions to the problems that we throw out, there'd be some interesting stuff around more durable, more recyclable, more reusable plastics. And I think we also need to probably think about widening that out. You know, we've been kind of talking about plastic packaging here, but of course there's a whole other range of materials or plastics that are used for other purposes that of more industrial nature, you know, and they have a whole set of other issues, but clearly there's a lot of reuse that actually happens within the system now.
Super. All right, thanks, Wayne. Are there any questions from the audience still? I think we have, there's a hand there. I think there's a microphone going around. No, there's not. There's a microphone there?
Yes, hello. So my name is Magali Uters. I'm working for a small center working on the circular economy in the Mediterranean region. And my question is about the following. I think that one of the critical points for the new plastic economy is also the issue of harmful chemicals, because when you produce plastic and then you use them, we have issue with endocrine disruptive chemicals. So I think that this question should be really addressed in this new economy, because it is having a very heavy effect on the health of citizens and also on the ecosystems in general. Thank you.
So the question was around what is the role of potentially harmful substances in plastics, and how is this addressed, especially then if with more and more recycling, if they perhaps switch from one application to the other and they're looped around the economy. I think that's we haven't touched upon it now, but it's definitely one of the points that we've addressed, for example, in the New Plastics Economy report, and that is a critical element of the circular economy, because obviously you don't want to cycle materials through your system that are potentially harmful. So designing these out from the start is absolutely a critical part to achieve this ambition. At least that's my perspective.
Your question is very valid, and it's all about traceability and trust. We need to make sure that the product that we are putting on the market have exactly the kind of quality that we are expecting from them. And I can tell you that we are able for years now to produce packaging for food industry, which has exactly the same quality as the virgin one. So obviously it's a challenge for all producers of goods to make sure that when they are moving away from waste, entering into the world of product, they make sure that the product that they are delivering to their customers have exactly the type of quality that the customers is expecting from it. But whether it is for food or non-food, there are specific quality that we have to comply with, and our plants are obviously very well checked and audited by a health authority in the various countries in which we operate. So in my opinion, even to go in your direction, the higher the standards, the higher the quality, the higher requirements, the better it is for us.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? I'm realizing any question is delaying lunch, so that may prevent. All right, excellent. But then I'd like to thank all of you. I'd like to thank the panelists for the contribution to this discussion. Thank you for your attention, and have a good lunch. Thank you.